What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Bush coming at you solo today to talk about some trade targets after week 4 of fantasy football, some week 5 trade targets in 2021 fantasy football. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 5 guys that I'm buying low right now, 3 guys that I am selling high right now. And with each guy that I talk about, I'm going to show you a real tangible look at some actual trades that have happened in Yahoo fantasy leagues in the past, 24 hours or so. I'll point out some of my favorite trades, as well as give you kind of a general idea of what I'm looking to do with some of these guys. I'm basically going to be following a similar theme to what I've done the last couple trade targets videos, is that I'm always willing to buy low on elite talents, because elite talents is how you win fantasy championships, by upgrading your average players to great players to elite players. That's how you build a true contender in fantasy football. And there's been plenty of elite talents so far this year. I feel like more than any year, that have been underperforming right now. So before we get into this, of course, like the video if you guys enjoy, comment any of your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel if you are new. There's like 80% of you guys that watch these videos that are not subscribed to the channel. We're trying to hit 7,000 subscribers as soon as possible. I believe we're at like 6,800, something like that right now. So if you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button. Now let's hit the intro. So, as I mentioned, every trade target that I'm going to talk about today will fit into this category of an elite player that is underperforming. Yes, there's plenty of buy low candidates that aren't elite players, but these are the guys that I'm always looking to acquire in trades, because they really help make your team from a playoff team to a juggernaut, the type of team that everybody in your league is scared of, because you bought low on these elite talents and you collected guys that if you drafted them, there's no way you could have possibly gotten that much value at ADP and stuff like that. So that's always what I'm looking to be doing. It's never stay stagnant in fantasy. It's one of the biggest lessons that I can point home and drive home to you guys, because I made this mistake when I was first playing fantasy. If I got off to a hot start, 3-1, 4-0, something like that, those guys that helped me get to that start, they won't always be great all season, right? You should be able to pick up on what guys are overperforming relative to what they should be doing, because maybe they're catching a couple long bomb touchdowns, or maybe their quarterback's just playing out of their mind. Maybe they've had some easy matchups. Whatever the case is, you never want to stay stagnant in fantasy. You want to think of fantasy football like the stock market, hence the name of this YouTube channel. If you have an asset whose perceived value is higher than his actual value, what he's actually going to perform in the future, then it's time to sell that asset. Just like if you had a stock that was overperforming, it was 10 points up what it should be, then you sell the asset, you move on and you buy something else. That's exactly what you should be looking to be doing. So without further ado, let's get into the guys that we're going to be talking about in this video. And the first guy is Stefon Diggs. Again, an example of an elite asset. Most people would have had to have drafted him at the end of the first, early second round. Diggs owners are frustrated right now. Week after week, watching Dawson Knox and Emmanuel Sanders outperform him in fantasy, catch touchdowns, catch long plays. Everything that those guys are doing is pissing off Diggs owners by the week. He is still the go-to guy in this offense, though. That is the big point that I want to drive home about Stefon Diggs. This guy is averaging over 10 targets per game. He has a 13-yard average depth of target, which is right in that sweet spot of a guy that's not getting low value, like close to the line of scrimmage targets, but he's also not just a deep threat. So as we talked about all offseason, he gets those high value targets, tied for 4th right now in the NFL with 11 targets coming inside the red zone and 3 to the end zone. He also has 9 deep targets as well on the season. So this is a guy that is not just getting checkdowns. He's not just getting screen passes and stuff like that. He is getting high value targets. It's just a matter of time before he actually hits on some of those big plays, on some of those touchdowns. His time is coming. You are getting an elite top 5 wide receiver for the price of a back-end wide receiver 1 or a high-end wide receiver 2. And the reason I know that's his price is because you guys can see some of the trades that have happened in Yahoo fantasy leagues right now. You can see somebody got Stefon Diggs for Kareem Hunt. Somebody got Stefon Diggs for Cordarelle Patterson and Odell Beckham Jr. Somebody got Stefon Diggs for a collection of Deebo Samuel, David Montgomery, James Robinson. Someone got Stefon Diggs for Odell Beckham and Nick Chubb. You see my point. Basically, Diggs and Gibson, somebody got for Cortland Sutton and James Robinson. Stefon Diggs is not being treated like the elite asset that he should be being treated as. He should be a guy that you have to pay up 2 great assets to get. And that's probably not what you're going to have to do if you want to go acquire Stefon Diggs. So like I said, if you have some of these guys that have overperformed, maybe they're performing above their expectation right now, you don't expect it to continue. Guys like Kareem Hunt, for example, guys like Marquise Brown, guys like Deebo Samuel, guys like some of these guys that are not quite elite options, but are performing like elite options right now, you should be flipping them, trying to flip them one for one or add in a small piece to get in Stefon Diggs, because Stefon Diggs has sustained production over multiple years. He's been an elite wide receiver in this league for a number of years. He is the best route runner in the league, bar none, in my opinion. This is the guy that you want on your fantasy teams because he is going to help you bring home a championship, and you can acquire him right now for pennies on the dollar. And another guy that fits right into this category because he was drafted in the same area as Stefon Diggs is DeAndre Hopkins, who's the number 2 trade target of this video. It's very difficult to envision DeAndre Hopkins being elite again because it's been pretty bad so far, but the outlook is much more promising on DeAndre Hopkins than you guys might think. If you're more casual fantasy players and you just see the box score and you're like, man, he's not performing right now. Rondale Moore's getting involved. Christian Kirk's getting involved. Even AJ Green's taking away targets from him. But here's the thing with DeAndre Hopkins. He's an elite wide receiver talent. He's the number 1 wide receiver for a quarterback who's playing at an MVP level right now. That is really all I need to tell you about DeAndre Hopkins, to tell you that I feel comfortable buying him, because yes, he doesn't get moved around. He doesn't get moved into the slot. He doesn't get used in creative ways to get the ball in his hands, which is really frustrating to some people. But it's not a matter of usage. I seriously think he's just getting unlucky, similar to what happens with Stefon Diggs right now. And the unfortunate thing is that Cliff Kingsbury doesn't move him into the slot. He doesn't get him away from elite corners, and he allows defenses to bracket him. But here's the thing about that. That happened last year too. DeAndre Hopkins is no better of a receiver this year or last year than he was in the past. Everybody knew DeAndre Hopkins was the biggest threat on that team last year. They bracketed him every play. He was the number 1 focus of defenses. And that's still the case. So the fact that, like, and I'm sure people are going to be like, well, they're bracketing DeAndre Hopkins, that's why he's not performing. And Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk are winning their one-on-one matchups. But here's the thing. They're going to continue to do that. And DeAndre Hopkins is still going to win because he's being bracketed and double covered for the last 5 years of his career. And he was still continuing to be an elite wide receiver. He's running more routes than anybody in the NFL right now. He's running 99% route participation for the Arizona Cardinals. It's not a matter of usage. It is just a matter of him getting luckier. And like I said, this is an elite wide receiver, a top 5 wide receiver, top 6, top 8 wide receiver at minimum that you're getting for pennies on the dollar. As you guys can see, somebody is trading away James Conner and CeeDee Lamb for DeAndre Hopkins. Somebody is trading away Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Dalton Schultz for DeAndre Hopkins. Somebody is trading away Kareem Hunt and Marquise Brown, Chris Carson straight up, Amari Cooper. Like, some of these guys are not in the same conversation as DeAndre Hopkins. And the fact that you can get him for that price right now is exactly when you should be looking to buy. Think of these 2 wide receivers that I've just talked about. This is Amazon and Tesla stock down 20% on the market right now. Like, this is what you should be looking for. These are elite assets. These are elite options that you want on your fantasy teams because they are going to help you, give you that stable production, give you that elite wide receiver output, especially in PPR leagues. So those are 2 guys that I'm absolutely targeting aggressively right now because I think the owners are going to sell them for cheaper than they're worth. They probably have some hesitancy. Oh, maybe I should have drafted this guy instead. Maybe I should have done this differently. Not me. I think these guys are going to get right back to elite production sooner rather than later. And another guy that fits into this category that is a running back is Dalvin Cook. And Dalvin Cook, we now have 2 weeks where the Dalvin Cook owner couldn't use him or was disappointed with his performance. Now, I don't think the Dalvin Cook owner is going to be like, man, I regret drafting Dalvin Cook. But what they are probably thinking is, I should have drafted Derrick Henry. And that alone is enough for you to get a small buying window on Dalvin Cook. It's probably going to end this week because Dalvin Cook will probably be right back to the elite production that we've already seen from him. But you guys should probably already know by now what Dalvin Cook represents, what he's worth in fantasy. And the RB28 right now that he's currently performing at and currently operating at will be enough to spook some people to the point that they're going to sell Dalvin Cook for 90 cents on the dollar, 80 cents on the dollar. You're not going to get him for pennies on the dollar, but you will get a small discount on Dalvin Cook right now if you want to go and acquire him. It's not going to be cheap, but a 2-for-1 upgrade is exactly the type of move I'd be looking to do if I wanted to acquire an elite running back like Dalvin Cook. For example, as you guys can see on the screen, some of the trades that have happened in real fantasy leagues, Adam Thielen and James Robinson for Dalvin Cook. Again, 2 pretty good options that are going to help your fantasy team, but they're not as valuable as Dalvin Cook. Adam Thielen, again, his teammate, and Kareem Hunt, 2 pretty good fantasy options, but not going to be the elite option that Dalvin Cook is. And again, you can see another trade where there was a lot of noise sent for Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray for Marvin Jones, CeeDee Lamb, and James Robinson. Again, Dalvin Cook is clearly the best asset in that deal. You can also see a 1-for-1 trade there where somebody got Dalvin Cook for Najee Harris. Again, great deal that you could be making right now. So go out and acquire Dalvin Cook. Go out and inquire about what you can get him for. Again, it's not going to be cheap, but if you can get him for less than what he's worth, which in my opinion, what Dalvin Cook is worth is a borderline elite wide receiver like DJ Moore, for example, plus a good running back like Antonio Gibson. Like that is what Dalvin Cook is actually worth. So if you can get him for something less than that, then you're getting a discount on Dalvin Cook. And I'd imagine because of some of the ankle stuff that he's been dealing with, because of the fact that he underperformed this week, because of the fact that his volume was cut down a little bit, I'm not worried about any of that stuff. Dalvin Cook is an elite fantasy running back as long as he's on the field. I'm not concerned whatsoever. So go out and send out some offers for Dalvin Cook. I'm sure you can get a small discount on it. So the final two guys that I'm going to talk about in this trade targets area or this buy low area of this video is the two Atlanta Falcons studs. So Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts. And for starters, just as a general philosophy on this offense and on the entire league in general, when teams are implementing a new offensive system, a new offensive coordinator, new play caller, they have new pieces, new offensive line, stuff like that, it's going to take time for them to gel and develop. We usually see this each and every year. Continuity, teams like the New Orleans Saints, for example, in years past with Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, when they were in their primes, the Seahawks, for example, they've had Metcalf and Lockett for a while. These teams that have continuity usually get out to faster starts than teams that have new pieces, new play callers, new quarterbacks, new wide receivers, whatever the case is. And none is a bigger example to me than the Atlanta Falcons, because I believe Arthur Smith is doing a good job in terms of play calling and scheming up plays. It's just taking time for it to develop right now. And we saw evidence of it last week, looking a lot better against this Washington defense. This was the 32nd ranked offense in DVOA, weeks 1 to 3 in the NFL. And that doesn't surprise me one bit. Like I said, they have a new tight end who's playing a lot of routes. They don't have Julio Jones for the first time in 10 years. And it's a new offensive coordinator. It's a new scheme. There's some new pieces on the offensive line. Everything is going to take time to gel in this offense. And for Calvin Ridley's sake, he's in the same exact boat that Stefon Diggs is in right now, averaging 10.5 targets per game, tied for 4th in the NFL right now with 11 red zone targets and 3 end zone targets. Again, he is getting valuable volume. He is getting that volume that you want a stud number 1 wide receiver like Calvin Ridley to get. The problem is they haven't exactly connected on some of these plays. There's been some great defensive plays made against Calvin Ridley. There's been some pass interference. There's been some stuff like that that is just unlucky. It's just an unlucky break for Calvin Ridley. And like I said, with Diggs and with Hopkins, this is a guy that is a top 8, top 10 wide receiver rest of season that you're going to get for 60 cents, 80 cents on the dollar right now. And as you guys can see on the screen, you're getting Calvin Ridley right now for a combination of Robbie Anderson and AJ Brown. You're getting Calvin Ridley right now for Deebo Samuel and Damian Harris. You're getting Calvin Ridley and Michael Gallup right now for Derek Carr and Jacoby Myers. Like, you can get this guy at a discount because he has not performed to the level that the person who drafted him in the mid-second round or the early second round was expecting. They were expecting an elite wide receiver, and they haven't gotten an elite wide receiver quite yet. So the fact that you can dangle a Deebo Samuel, who has been an elite wide receiver thus far, in front of Calvin Ridley, and you can get Calvin Ridley maybe plus back for Deebo Samuel, that is something I'm willing to do, because in San Francisco, with a quarterback change, with the fact that Deebo Samuel's had a lot of big plays, maybe he's not the elite asset that he's been thus far for the rest of the season. So Calvin Ridley is a big time target of mine. He's a guy that I think is still a top 10 wide receiver, top 8 wide receiver rest of season. He is getting the volume, he's getting the valuable volume. It's just a matter of those passes connecting and those deep plays connecting. We know Calvin Ridley has been a historically great touchdown scorer in his career. He also hasn't had many touchdowns thus far this season. So I think things are going to turn around for Calvin Ridley. And the same goes for his teammate, Kyle Pitts, because Kyle Pitts, along with everybody around him, with Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley and some of the veterans that have been there, they're all learning a new offense. They're all learning each other's chemistries and their tendencies. This kid is an elite talent. I still believe he's an elite talent, and he hasn't been used to the fullest potential yet, because they're working out some kinks in their offense, and because Cordarelle Patterson, for whatever reason, is vulturing all the production. Kyle Pitts just played 39 snaps, either out wide or in the slot in this last game. And this has been a trend throughout the whole season, as you guys can see on the screen. And he had 9 targets last week. It is coming. His big game is coming. And eventually it's going to click for him. And eventually he's going to establish himself as that elite tight end that you wanted coming into your drafts when you drafted Kyle Pitts in the 4th or 5th round. If the owner is panicking on Kyle Pitts, and I guarantee they will be, because Kyle Pitts had the narrative of rookie tight ends never produce coming into the season, right? And we were like, okay, Kyle Pitts is going to be different. Kyle Pitts is this unicorn prospect. He can bust this narrative of rookie tight ends never produce. But the fact of the matter is he hasn't produced yet. And it's not a matter of Kyle Pitts not being good enough or them not using him correctly. They're using him correctly. He just hasn't capitalized on his opportunities yet. And it's only a matter of time. Right now, you can get Kyle Pitts for guys like Laviska Shenault. You can get Kyle Pitts and Allen Robinson for a guy like TJ Hawkinson. You can get Kyle Pitts and Chase Edmonds for Deontay Johnson. you can get some of these discounted players and Kyle Pitts for some of these great performing players. If you can sell right now Marquise Brown or Tyler Boyd or somebody that's gotten off to a great start for Kyle Pitts, I would be doing that, especially if you need a tight end, because I think this guy is going to be very, very valuable as the season goes along. We've seen it with rookie wide receivers, which is basically what Kyle Pitts is right now, not even really playing in line as a tight end, that these guys take a number of weeks to get going. Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, Justin Jefferson last year, a lot of these guys took until week 3, week 4, week 5 before they fully established themselves in the NFL and started producing at that high-end level that we saw them produce last year. And that is going to be the case with Kyle Pitts. I promise you, by week 10, Kyle Pitts is going to be a top 5 tight end, and it won't even be close, in my opinion. He's already getting the usage. He's already getting the targets. He just needs to capitalize on it. So Kyle Pitts, a big-time trade target of mine if I'm in need of a tight end. Even if you're not in need of a tight end, I have Noah Fant in my home league, and I'm trying to trade him straight up for Kyle Pitts because I like Kyle Pitts' outlook a lot better for the rest of the season. So moving off of some of the buy lows, we're going to get into some of the sell highs, and I'm going to spend a lot less time on these guys because they should be fairly straightforward why they're sell highs. The first one is the most obvious sell high in all of fantasy football. It's Cordarelle Patterson. And Cordarelle Patterson, the reason he's the biggest sell high in fantasy football right now is because he is not getting the usage. He is getting lucky. That is the only way I can describe it right now. Cordarelle Patterson is the definition of a luck box, according to Dwayne McFarland, who charts all of the usage, all of the routes, all of the snaps. 30% of the snaps last week, 29% of the routes for the Atlanta Falcons, and he was the RB1, whatever, wide receiver 3 on the week because he caught a bunch of long bomb touchdowns. And that's not going to happen every week. And with Cordarelle Patterson, when I say he's a sell high, you might be like, well, I think my league mates know what I'm doing if I try and sell him coming off of a big week. I would say that they probably don't, because some of the trades that you guys can see on the screen right now, Cordarelle Patterson is being valued as if he's going to be an every week RB2 rest of the season. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we're in a similar situation that we were in with Tyson Williams at the beginning of the year, where if you get out from Cordarelle Patterson, you're going to be out before the wheels fall off, because they're eventually going to fall off, in my opinion. And if you can sell Cordarelle Patterson right now, 1-for-1 for James Robinson, for CeeDee Lamb, for some of these underperforming wide receivers, maybe you want to even sell them for Jerry Jeudy if you're 4-0 coming back from his injury, or AJ Brown or something like that. You can probably get that done with the way that Cordarelle Patterson has produced thus far. It's not sustainable. He's not going to continue doing this. He's going to be involved in the offense. He's going to be a gadget guy, sure, but he is not going to be an every week RB2 or wide receiver 2 that he's been thus far in the season. So he's a guy that I'm looking to sell. Tyler Boyd as well, another guy that I'm probably looking to be selling right now, because T. Higgins is likely going to be back this week. As a result of T. Higgins' absence, Tyler Boyd has been heavily involved in this offense. He's been getting highly targeted. He's been getting used in the red zone as well. And he'd be the type of guy, if I'm looking to upgrade to a stud, I would ship with somebody involved in that trade to get up to a Stefon Diggs. So if you have Marquise Brown and Tyler Boyd, for example, 2 guys that have definitely performed very well thus far, and you can get Calvin Ridley with that, or you can get Stefon Diggs or DeAndre Hopkins with that, that is something I'd be willing to do. Or if you can ship Tyler Boyd straight up for Kyle Pitts, if you need a tight end, go ahead and do that. Or you can take a running back wide receiver combo like Tyler Boyd and Chase Edmonds, both guys who've gotten out to good starts, ship them off for Calvin Ridley, ship them off for DeAndre Hopkins, something like that. Again, Hollywood Brown, another sell high candidate, the last sell high candidate of this video. As I already talked about, Hollywood Brown has gotten out to a phenomenal start. His target share is very undeniable. I'm not saying he's going to be bad the rest of the year. I'm just saying that he is being valued right now, currently inside the top 15 to 20 wide receivers. And I don't think that's going to keep up, mainly because Rashad Bateman is coming back from injury. Rashad Bateman, to me, profiles more as the possession receiver in the offense. He had a long sustained career of college production, so I don't expect him to get out to a slow start in his NFL career. And if he does do that, it's going to take away from Marquise Brown. It's going to make him more of a boomer bust type of deep threat, where he's more valued as a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 in fantasy, whereas the wide receiver 2 value that you can get for him right now is probably worth capitalizing on. Again, you could probably sell this guy straight up for Deontay Johnson. You could probably sell this guy straight up for Mike Evans, or you can pair him with a Chase Edmonds or something like that and go up and get an elite wide receiver, go up and get a borderline elite running back like DeAndre Swift or something like that. So that is something I'd definitely be looking to do with those 2 wide receivers. Again, if you guys did enjoy this video, please leave a like at the bottom of the video, comment any of your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are closing in on 7,000 subscribers. If you want access to our weekly rankings, you can go and check out the website. This will help you set your lineups, get your start sit decisions in without even having to ask us, basically, because we rank our players based on who we would start over who. We don't rank them based on an accuracy contest or anything like that. So that is how we rank our players. If you want access to our weekly rankings, you can go to thefantasystockexchange.com right now and buy them outright for $20, or you can go to underdogfantasy.com, deposit using promo code FSE, and you can get our weekly rankings for free, as well as a $10 bonus on whatever you deposit. Or you can become a Patreon member, patreon.com/fantasy stock exchange, and get the rankings one of those three ways. That is how you can get our rankings, guys. Again, peace out, and I'll talk to you soon.